Hello students, welcome to EasyElimu Learning Simplified. My name is Mr. Stanley Mbogo. This is another interesting session that we are about to have. And in this session, allow me take you through, that is an artist of the floating world analysis. And in this specific session, we are going to look at some of the stylistic devices or the language and style that we have in the first episode, that is as of October 1948. So we have a number of styles that Kazuo Ishiguro has employed or rather used in this interesting novel. So to begin with, allow me to talk about irony. So the definition of irony as a literary device is a situation in which there is a contrast between expectation and reality. So it is ironical that Sesuko insists on precautionary measures in the second marriage negotiations for Noriko, yet the father says there is nothing to hide. So this during the second marriage negotiations, the first attempt having failed. So again, it is ironical that after Ono acquires Sugimura's house, some of his relatives were hostile towards him, and instead of greeting him, they would stand and interrogate about the state of the house, yet they were willing to sell it and solve their disputes. So this happens after the house had been officially sold to Ono. So another instance is that it is ironical that Ono seems to hold himself as a role model in his city, yet the young people and those who are in the front line of the war disregard his participation in the war. So they feel that it is high time he even commits suicide like his likes that never helped Japan much during the time of the war. So another illustration is that the daughters of Sugimura tell Ono that they have decided to give him the house on grounds purely of good character and achievement. So Ono finds this ironical because such a house could not be purchased by people like himself. So still on irony, it is also ironical that that Ono is positive for once about the criticism young people hold against him, and he surprisingly admits his mistakes at a time and place less anticipated as the narrative is progressing. So he admits his mistakes during Noriko's uh, marriage negotiations, that is Miyai. So again, it is ironical that at one point Kuroda had indicated that Ono's reputation will be greater and it will be their proudest honor to tell others that they were his student. Yet the story, in the story, many of his students now show disgust about him, right from Kuroda himself to Shintaro and to the likes of Tatais. So it is also ironical that Suichi uh, Suichi or Miyake felt that people who committed suicide as a way of apologizing to Japan after the war that they caused were better than cowards who lived and progressed as if they had nothing to do with the destructive war. So in real sense, we expect them to wish for a positive transformation and no more deaths. So what is interesting here, dear students, is that they believe that uh, the people can only be proven just and their apology can only be accepted, that is after maybe they commit suicide, which is ironical to the kind of new things and new developments that they want. So another style that we are coming across in the first episode is dialogue and conversation. So remember, a dialogue or a conversation is simply talk between two people or two or more groups of people. So Ono holds a dialogue with both Setsuko, his older daughter, who is mannerly, self-deprecating, and indirect. So Setsuko tells the father to be cautious in the second negotiations that they are not there are no letdowns as they had been there previously. So this comes at a time when or after uh, the first marriage negotiations had failed with the Miyakes. So in the second attempt, Setsuko warns and tells the father to be cautious so that there are no letdowns as there had been in the previous marriage negotiations. So Ono talks to his grandson Ishiro, a strong-willed boy of 7 years. So when he visits with his mother, Ishiro wants to know about the art the grandfather used to have, the contents of the monster movie, and he also insists that his grandfather takes him to one, which later on happens. So after he visits, he comes back and shares his observations too. Uh, Ono and Ishiro have a disconnected dialogue where Ono wants the grandson to draw, but he is interested in cowboy performances. Another illustration is that Ono's father calls him and they talk about his art and the fate of artists. He also reveals to his son about the predictions of a wandering priest and tell him to stay away from art. So Ono also have a conversation with Shintaro. So Ono talks to Shintaro and his brother as they plea that he recommends for his brother for a certain job that is critical for them. So Ono also shares a conversation that happens between himself and Setsuko's husband, Suichi, during the burial of Kenji's remains. So Suichi regards the death of his brother-in-law as an act of bravery, unlike the greatest cowards who did not admit their responsibility in what had faced Japan, that is the war. So it reveals how values in Japan are chancing and betrayal also as perceived by current youths. So another thing is that Ono talks to his daughters Setsuko and Noriko on various occasions in the entire novel. So when Setsuko comes to visit, Noriko tells the sister the transformation in their father in relation to work, eating, and much, much more. So Noriko also shares with the father on how she had met Miyake and how she had asked him about his current marriage prospect. So Noriko starts this conversation to find out why they had backed out of their negotiations. She suggests that the father is aware of why they backed out because it was not her mistake at all. In another instance, Setsuko asks the father whether negotiations have gone that far, and the father informs her that Noriko has been behaving oddly of late and even told Mr. Mori, that is Mori-san, the marriage were settled. So another style that we have, dear students, is sarcasm. So remember that sarcasm is the use of uh, irony to mock or convey contempt. So under sarcasm, we get to understand that Miyake uh, is sarcastic, that is while talking to Ono. So after reporting the death of their company's president, he says that he thinks there are many who should be giving their lives in apology that are too cowardly to face up their responsibilities. So given that Ono is part of those who engineered the war, the statement is mocking him. So on another instance, Suichi, that is Ono's son-in-law, is also sarcastic as he talks to Ono during Kenji's burial. So he says that those who sent the likes of Kenji out there to die, these brave deaths, where are they? And he adds that they are carrying on with their lives much the same as ever. Many are more successful than before, behaving so well in front of the Americans, and the very ones who led us to disaster. So these are words that are coming from Suichi, that is during Kenji's burial. So all this is indirectly aimed at Ono, who was a propaganda artist used during the war. So having left Morisan, he became a political propagandist and used art to spread propaganda in politics. Uh, there is also use of imagery. So imagery is a literary device used in poetry, novels, and any other writing that uses a vivid description that appeals to a reader's senses to create an image or idea in their head. So the first style that we are going to look at under imagery, that is the sub categories, we have similes. So this is a comparison uh, of two things using the words like or as. So Shintaro, for example, is said to have a childlike aspect. And again, Ishiro also draws a huge lizard-like creature that is as used on page 33 of the novel. So Ono also suggests that Kuroda's face had heavy-like lines. And again, while gathered with his students, Ono talks about lessons in life as an artist, and one student thinks it sounds more like a farm producing cardboard boxes. So there is also another style under imagery, that is symbolism. And this is a literary device that uses symbols, be they words, people, marks, locations, or abstract ideas to represent something beyond the literal meaning. So Ono, Matsuda, and other ancient Japanese people who supported war seem to represent the people who messed Japan. So the villa also represent Morisan's art. And again, in the novel, the smell of burning represents bombs in Japan immediately after the World War. So there is also personification still under imagery. So these are when an idea or animal is given human characteristics. So brave young men die for stupid causes. So that statement, looking at the word stupid, gives a good example of personification. So there is also vivid description, that is the use of a visually descriptive language. So Ono, as the narrator, has a way of describing items, places, or events in details. For example, he describes the house as having a fine cedar gateway with a large area bound by the garden wall. So its roof had elegant tiles and with stylishly carved ridgepole pointing out over the view. Ono also talks of the house, revealing that Sugimura had built its eastern wing with three large rooms connected to the main body of the house by the long corridor running down one of the garden. So the corridor is also said to be, it is said that the corridor was extravagant, and in the afternoon, its entire length would be crossed by the lights and shades of the foliage outside, so that one was walking through a garden tunnel. So another illustration that we have is that Ono is keen to see that Miyake is dressed in a tired-looking raincoat, a little too large on him. So he has a briefcase, and he looks like a young man who is accustomed to being bossed around. Uh, Again, Ono says that his posture seems to be fixed on the verge of bowing, and he laughs nervously as if he had caught him coming out of some disreputable house. So there is also, vivid description being used a lot in the novel, and still we have other illustrations here. Ono describes he describes vividly, sorry, the reception on the day his father stopped him from engaging in art. In this flashback, he says the room was lit by the tall candle, and the father was sitting at the center of its light. So instead of a business box, he had an heavy that is an heavy earthenware ash pot that was only produced for guests. So uh, Ono wondered why the father had brought that earthenware ash pot. So again, Ono reports that when he spends time with Shintaro, he found his memory of it merging with the sounds and images from all those other evenings. And the lanterns hung above doorways, the laughter of people congregated outside the Meiji Hidari, the smell of deep fried, a bar hostess persuading someone to return to his wife, and echoing from every direction. So the scene and the setting, dear students, is vividly described, as you can see, because the kind of language that is used give that, visual representation in the brain or in the head. So again, Ono also indicates that he goes to Arakawa district and the last stop on the city trim line going south. Again, he says that many people express surprise that the line should extend so far down in the suburbs. So the city is said, it is said that the city has cleanly swept residential streets. Its rows of maple trees on the pavements, its dignified 33 houses, each set apart from the next, and its general air of being surrounded by the countryside. So that is during the visit to Arakawa district. So again, Ono, that is the narrator, uses a language that is visually descriptive to try and show the readers uh, how some of those scenes and settings exactly looked like. So we also have the use of rhetoric questions. And here, Ono asks Ichiro questions that he does not respond to at all. Remember, rhetoric questions do not require response. So again, Ono and his mother are asked questions by his father following his love for art. That is again through a flashback where Ono takes us back to uh, times, uh, point in time when the father wanted him to abandon art and uh, take after him, that is become a business person. So Ono asks what has come over people that they feel inclined to beat a man like Hirayama. So this again in at Mrs. Kawakami's when they were talking about the Hirayama boy. So again, Ono asks why uh, can't the old district, he asks and also wonders when the old district will uh, ever return. So another style that we also have here, dear students, is allusion. So Shintaro comments that in olden times, if a lord had his troops scattered after a battle, he would soon go about gathering them together again. So remember that allusion is the indirect reference to someone or something. So there is also a direct translation used as a style. So the old district will not return again. So that is directly translated to English language. So again, there is use of a flashback. So flashback is simply when a scene in a film or a novel is set in a time earlier than in the main story. So talking about flashback in this episode, Ono flashbacks how he acquired the Sugimuro's house in unexpected situations, and later how the house was ruined, that is after the war. So again, Ono flashbacks how Tortoise was attacked often by his workmates for being too slow. And he also recalls how Shintaro had come to his seeking, had come to him, sorry, seeking his recommendation for his brother. So Ono also flashbacks on how Mrs. Kawakami's bar had come up with ancient times, and he says it came up as a place squeezed in amid so many other bars, and it was eating houses. So people doubted whether it could survive. And that time, many people had banners that announced their bars. So he also says he ensured the bar was sustained and grew. So the first time he went into it was when he wanted to talk to Shintaro, and he also recalls how the place was sold to Yamagata. So Ono also recalls his father's reception and how sacred it was. So he could get into that room and find it well lit, and the father could sit. The father could sit cross-legged on the tatami. So tatami is the veranda, I think. So he had a Buddhist altar where he could hold business meetings with his son. So the father hated art, and when he learned Ono was interested in it, he destroyed his son's paintings. So another thing is that Ono recalls how Setsuko had sat in front of the altar and told her to take precautionary steps in Noriko's second negotiations so that there are no more letdowns. So still under flashback, again, in the novel, Noriko recalls having met Miyake and asked how his marriage negotiations are coming along. So Ono too recalls the last meeting he had with the Miyake before they pulled out. And he flashbacks how he influenced the growth of Miji Hidari when he was a member of the committee of the State Department. So lastly, the last illustration to support this style, dear students, is that Ono flashbacks the times he used to work in Takeda form and the picture of Furukawa as well as the kind of houses around there. So dear students, all those illustrations are evidences of some of the scenes that are set in a time earlier than the main story that we are having in An Artist of the Floating World by Kazuo Ishiguro. So thanks for being with me till the end, and again I look forward to having you in the next episodes. Until next time, bye.